Oh, the bad times that keep on rolling in. And some of those bad times, well, that's actually because of the Walt Disney Company's actions. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this story from That Park Place. Disney offers $245K salary for DEI director role, despite Bob Iger's pledge to, quote, quiet the noise on divisive politics. This by Marva Montanaro, September 16, 2025. When Bob Iger returned as Disney CEO, he suggested that the company would step back from divisive politics and quiet the noise surrounding its involvement in culture wars. Yet Disney's latest hiring move makes it clear the corporation is not backing away from its controversial diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. In fact, it's doubling down, with a position that pays nearly $250,000 per year. On Disney's own career page, a listing for Director, Inclusive Learning, Integration, and Planning at Walt Disney Studios in Burbank spells out that the company's ongoing commitment to its DEI initiatives. The role is no minor hire. It's positioned as a strategic bridge across the entire company. The description leaves no doubt about its emphasis. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical enablers for this effort. The DEI organization is focused on creating, leading, and supporting our people and culture inclusion strategies. This by Disney Careers. The responsibilities confirm that it's not about superficial optics, but about embedding DEI deeply across corporate systems. Design and implement innovative, actionable learning solutions that strengthen DEI and leadership capabilities, collaborate to embed DEI principles into existing content and programs, and lead the development of DEI strategy, update, and key insights for DE senior leaders and key stakeholders. This is absolutely ridiculous. It goes on to say that the salary range is anywhere between $200,000 and $245,000. Culture, why would they do this? Why double down on DEI at this critical point? And this is also why I don't really give much credence to the, Trump administration is going to come down on us for, suspending Jimmy Kimmel. It's like, okay, then what? Explain this. I mean, there have been executive orders written on this particular subject, and yet Disney continues to go down this DEI rabbit hole, I guess. Go ahead, Culture. Your thoughts on this one?
I don't know. I think that Iger wants to make it all the way to the big boy court and hang out at the Supreme Court while he loses yet another case. That's my thoughts.
Yes. Boy. People will remember Reimagine Tomorrow and their the initial DEI initiative. Actually, Imagine
by the way, this new fascination with racism it hadn't existed, by the way, not in any meaningful way anywhere in the U.S. until, probably the last 20 years. I can point to the resurgence of this landing about the time that we elected a black president, which would seem to be absolutely the opposite of what you would suspect. The entire nation reportedly, put somebody that was black in power. So there's never the racism argument and discussion and all of that was because political parties needed something to fight over. It's the Dick Morris theory. So, and again, we oftentimes don't want to talk about politics, but unfortunately they intersect. They're being forced to intersect in areas where, you're supposed to have escapism. The people who celebrate and argue politics within this frame are enabling this. And the same people making the empty threats that they're going to boycott Disney over getting rid of the silly head. But when it comes to DEI, this is illegal. There is now another case by the Supreme Court that has already said this is illegal, whether it be in schools or in your daily life when it comes to these types of interactions. And you cannot hire based on the immutables that we've outlined in the course of making these laws. It's illegal. And so Disney using it as a hiring mechanism is also illegal. And that's also been done already in schools. I think we need the Supreme Court to smack somebody down, and it might as well be Disney, because they're the fools that are doing the exact opposite of the word inclusion in everything they do. It is exclusion. You are excluding white people. You are excluding qualified people because of their immutables. You are artificially promoting people that maybe don't have the qualifications to have these jobs, but you wouldn't know anyway because you are putting immutable characteristics before skills. That's it. You're scumbag if you do that.
Well, and I want to focus on that just for a little bit. The reason why that might be a bad thing is because if somebody isn't qualified to actually hold a position that they are being hired for, well, you're setting them up to fail.
Yeah.
See, this is why this is such a bad thing. Okay,
Yeah, but if you step back from that, we're already a witness to it. DEI has been a major push in a lot of urban centers, and the harder they've pushed it and the more they've opened it up to the globalist thought process, which is always a disaster because nobody's actually integrating in the ways that they should or doing jobs that they're qualified for, you end up with more failure. It's not just, you're not just adding failure on top of a problem, you are adding additional failure, other ways, other mechanisms in which you can fail. And people who fail to like step back from problems and realize that, it's like, hey, pouring sawdust into this machine is unhelpful. Okay, therefore we pour more sawdust into the machine that needs lubrication instead. It's dumb.
That's a fair point right there. And look, I was encouraged when the Stories Matter page and the original Reimagine Tomorrow pages were originally taken down, but not so enthused about them still pushing inclusion in the way that is unfortunately exclusive, as Culture, I believe, beautifully pointed out right there. You can see right here, this is kind of the splash page that you got on the former websites that include Stories Matter and Reimagine Tomorrow. When I look at like, hey, you know what, they're bringing Dr. Facilier back. Okay, that's great. But then there's no connection to voodoo. I'm like, a half measure. That's interesting. When I look at the rebranding of Frontierland, because from
Anti-America land, that's what it's becoming. Anti-America land.
It's You have to wonder. It's like, okay, well, you're taking out the shooting arcade. You're doing a lot of this stuff. Are you doing this because you really want to bring new stories to life, or you want to remove old stories? That's the big distinguishing factor right there. And from all that I can see, it appears that they're doing the latter. But go ahead, please, Culture.
No, look, I've already said neo-Marxism once, so I'm hesitant to do it again, but I'll do it a third time and just say, this is a neo-Marxist approach to getting rid of America and American history, so you can tear things down and remake them in your own authoritarian manner. It's like, well, we don't want these to be our history. You don't get to pick. You don't get to pick how things spell out. You don't get to pick to remove a quaint and slightly reminiscent of a simpler age aspect of your park, and then but only keep this particular part of history. And again, I whether or not I rise up against the idea that the 33rd most popular film of a given year that really didn't make all that much money comparatively, it should all of a sudden replace the iconic attraction in the park that, or the parks that essentially were all tied in together as far as a theme. Disney's been abandoning theme for a long time. Any theme park advocate or enthusiast will definitely recognize that. Disney has no trouble in turning back the past when it suits them. But look, I mean, they've been trying to hide one of the greatest animated films of all time with with people winning awards that normally didn't, back in a time that it's being claimed we're racist. None of this stuff holds water. And that's the problem, is you can't argue that we needed to get rid of Frontierland. You can't argue that we need to artificially insert more people of a given, immutable characteristic than another because we're trying to hit a goal. First of all, it's illegal to have that goal. And sorry guys, it's just the way it is. And in fact, they finally fixed a lot of problems with college admissions by simply saying you cannot have these quotas. They are fundamentally at their core illegal.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. There have been so much documentation within the halls of Disney talking about those goals, right? Talking about how we had to have a certain amount of people both on camera and behind the camera make up
also illegal
specific demographics. Go ahead.
It's not, also illegal, but it's not something the government can directly influence. So, look, if you want to encourage behavior, and if you want things to happen, if you're a governmental entity, you make money available for that specifically, but you cannot do it. You cannot make that money available to just one segment of people. You have to make it available to all people. So, this is one of the problems where government is not the answer. Government's never the answer now. Government is a huge problem, and when I look at this specifically, I'm disgusted. I'm annoyed. I'm frustrated. And I think it takes away from the arguments of people who would find themselves on the other side when they step back and take a look at the fact that, enabling this stuff in the long run will hurt the company. You will have fewer creative people. We'll have fewer people that are qualified to be there. You have people in positions in Disney right now that talk a whole lot about shape language, but not a lot about how they're going to entertain guests.
It's so true. It's so powerful. Culture. You talk about long-term decisions affecting them in the long term, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen that affect like stuff like the RCID, for example. We've seen that, Jimmy Kimmel. Would Jimmy Kimmel still be on the air if Disney reined him in 2016? There are long-term consequences to actions, and for some reason, Disney just can't get out of this hole that they dug themselves in. Maybe they didn't even know it's a hole, but they're definitely digging themselves deeper. And again, this has happened across Disney campuses and everywhere else. You obviously brought up RCID. RCID would still exist right now if Disney had stayed the hell out of politics. Correct.
And that's the thing that nobody gets. It's like, well, the state of Florida was willing to tolerate you guys having basically your own city since you use CIA a manner of the CIA to make this thing established in the first place. Because believe it or not, Disney used a CIA playbook to not only accumulate all the land but form its own governmental bodies. You can look into that, by the way. There's plenty of books on it. But when you look at it overall, the state of Florida was not willing to overlook Disney's abuse of the system anymore. They would have. It's the thing. It's like, look, for all we suffer under this, we get more benefit. Disney stopped being a benefit to the state of Florida. That's all. I'm going to tell you right now, if you live within the spirit of the law, like Disney was trying to do some of the time. I can't say most of the time. Some of the time, people are going to ignore you. Everything's going well. People like to be left alone. They like to leave you alone. But then you invited everybody into your living room, and I guess in this case, Disney, their bedroom, and Disney's inviting themselves into your bedroom. The state of Florida and probably the rest of the nation got tired of it.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.